What's up, guys? How's it going? Today is Thursday, August 22nd, coming to you live. I don't know why I'm stuttering already. Coming to you live with my good friend Kyle McCaw from McCaw Property Management. He manages over 1,300 single-family residential, fucking hell, Tommy, single-family residential properties. These aren't just 1,300 doors, right? These are actually single-family residential. So huge difference there. I want to just highlight it. They also own an insurance company. They've been an investor for countless years. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming out, man. I've been excited for this call. Today's topics, as always, is just freelance. We're going to have a conversation. If anybody has a question out there, drop it in the comments. Let me know anything that happens to deal with rentals, flipping, rehabs, today's market, rates. I know none of us here are lenders, but we deal with refinances often. We deal with rental properties often. We know what properties have to do for cash flow. So I'm very excited for today's call.
I didn't do my homework, but I think I'm ready.
No, you'll be fine, man. Thank you so much for coming out. First and foremost, tell me a little about yourself, right? For the audience.
Sure.
Give me your resume.
My resume.
How'd you get into real estate?
So, my mom did me a huge disservice my last year of A&M. She gave me two books to read. One was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The other was Millionaire Next Door. I already knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but those two books really opened up wealth, or like how to define it, how to acquire it, and how to make that transition from corporate world to being an entrepreneur. So I took the corporate job right out of college and got out as soon as I could, then got pulled back in, and then when I got uninvited to go to work one day, I'm like, man, I got to hunker down and like make this thing work. Because property management was a side business because I already owned a handful of rental properties. People would ask me to manage them for them on the side, and so it was like a hobby business. And then when I was uninvited to go to work, I was like, I got to make this thing happen because I need to have a whole lot of different bosses instead of one boss that can say no to me. And so I just hunkered down and built that portfolio of my rentals, but also mostly client rentals.
One of the things that like those two books unlocked, or at least for me, was the realization that you can't save yourself to wealth, right?
No.
You can't. The whole track of 9 to 5, 401k. By the time you get all of that out, you might have $1 million saved up or whatever, right? Depending on the market. But at the end of the day, is that enough for you to live the life that you deserve? For me, it was a wake-up call, which I liked, which I love.
To me, it's one is Millionaire Next Door is live under your means, don't keep up with the Joneses. But the Rich Dad Poor Dad is like the difference between two things. One is assets and liabilities, because what you and I refer to as an asset, other people may not, and liability, same thing. And then the other thing is like your source of income. So when I had a W-2, that is the most expensive dollar to make is a paycheck. When you're an entrepreneur or business owner, you have so many more advantages on controlling your tax write-offs and things of that nature. So if I make X amount of dollars as a business owner, it's the equivalent of making significantly more than X in corporate world, just because of the tax burdens and what have you. And that 401k, my company, we have a 401k. I want everybody to take advantage of it. But that money doesn't do the same. So if I have $50,000 invested in my 401k, it's $50,000 of whatever mutual funds. But if it's $50,000 that if you and I had $50,000, we'd go buy a rental house for more than $50,000. And if it goes up 5% and we put 50% down on a house, it does double that as far as rate of return on the amount of money you invested.
Let's get into rentals, because that's kind of where I wanted to steer it. The reason being is because rentals have so many facets of conversation, right? It has the tenant in there. The tenant is the average day working person, right? So that person has a really good finger to the pulse on the market, not the real estate market, but like what the cost of living is. And then it also has the average investor. The average investor might be a one-stop shop, whole deal, or it might be somebody that what did we call it earlier?
Meaningfully investing.
But no, it was the accidental
landlords. Yeah,
accidental
there's a
landlords,
lot of
right?
those,
Like there's
yeah.
those are the constant, right? So let's touch base on that. What is an accidental landlord?
So typically the accident, and I just got off the phone with one this morning, they didn't understand the asset they had and how fortunate they were to have it. But it was, I'm going to say retired couple, but I think her parents had a house, and this was in Decatur, and they inherited it from her parents. And they just kept it basically just to pay bills with, you know, it's $1,000, $15, $100 a month coming in. And they didn't realize how valuable that was. But that's just an accidental landlord. They didn't go out and say, hey, I want to go buy a rental house. It's two people decide they fall in love, they both own a home, they're going to move in together, keep one as a rental. Or it's
Somebody dies.
They're going to, okay, we're going to keep our first home, but we're going to upgrade and buy our upgrade house, but we're going to keep that one as a rental. So the accidental landlord, they tend to only have one house. And there was a really good report, it's called the Iceberg Report. All the big private equity funds chipped in and did a research report, American Homes for Rent, all those guys, Blackstone, BlackRock. And they went out and surveyed the market of single-family homes that were rentals, and they were trying to figure out what percentage of them are owned by what demographic. And I want to say it was like 75% were owned, maybe it was more, by just mom and pops. And of that, most of them only owned one house. And then they went to them and was like, hey, so you have this one house, tell me about it. And their response was like, this is the best investment I have. And they're like, okay, well, that's great. Why do you only have one? And then their answer was, overwhelmingly, was, well, I don't know how to get to two. So that's your accidental landlord, is somebody that has a rental, that they inherited it or they just accumulated it somehow, but they didn't do it on purpose.
The number is 75%, right? That's what you said?
I think it was at least that.
Even if it's anywhere near that, that number is astronomical and really needs to be highlighted because the average person, when they think of investor, they think of BlackRock. They think of these. It's not. They think these giant corporations are ruling the world, but I understand they have an influence on everything, and I'm not saying that at all. I have the tinfoil hat underneath the table. Trust me, we can bust it out. But the average person, the average investor or landlord isn't. It's just a mom and pop. They need to survive as well, right? So a lot of times there's mortgages on them. There's property tax that is increasing. There's repairs that need to be made. They don't know all these costs, all these ins and outs. If any of you guys are out there or an accidental landlord, drop it in the chat. Let me know if you guys are having any pains. Reach out to Kyle McCaw and his property management company, and he can help you.
But you hit on something. You know, the BlackRock, Blackstones, all the big boys, big private equity funds, why are they buying single-family homes? And they're smart guys. So follow the money. If they're doing it, then absolutely it's good for us. You know,
So what's going on with rental rates? What are you guys seeing with that throughout Texas?
So this year we've seen a lot more flat, and people weren't moving as quick this last summer. It was a lot slower than normal. Typically it's gangbusters and it just goes up, goes up, goes up. This year we saw a lot more flattening compared to the previous years. And I think it's because we just realized the tenants are just tapped out. Like they're like, we can't do any more. Unfortunately, the property owners' tax bills still go up, and so that's really put a strain because we've got people selling out their rental houses because they're like, it's just not, you know, the expenses are going up. So that what's happening is those tenants are getting hit even harder because now there's less properties out there.
I had a breakfast meeting this morning, and the investors, all of these investors are big door count investors.
Yeah, you dropped some names; they're huge.
And they're all seeing, like, tenants would leave, tenants move out for whatever reason. When they go to lease it up, they actually have to drop the rental rates.
A little bit, yeah.
While all costs have gone up, they have to drop just to get people in the door, just to get people that can afford it also. A lot of times, people out there, all those gurus that we hate, they are all boasting about rentals being the savior, but they're also maxing them out to 80%. Rates go up. Rental rates don't increase
Yeah.
to cover the taxes that just happened or increases, and now they're underwater. Now that's another, not accident on landlord, but it is in a sense, like people are coming into these properties that they're losing their ass on, but they just don't want to give them up, right?
Yeah.
Because giving them up would mean paying to sell them, right? Unfortunately. Tommy, can you go back to the comment just so I can see it? Sorry.
Well, these tenants are getting squeezed. They're getting squeezed, 2, 3, 4 years ago, they're getting squeezed by Mr. Landlord. We're the evil landlord. Now they're getting squeezed by everywhere they go. Grocery store, restaurants, gas, insurance. They're getting squeezed all day long. And it's like, how much more can they take? We're about to find out.
So with your out of 1,300, are you guys running into vacancies, high vacancies, or anything like that?
No, the reason I'm in single family homes is everybody needs a roof over their head. That's why I've never really jumped into strip centers or anything of that nature, because a really smart guy told me once is like everybody has to have a roof over their head. So it may take a little bit longer to rent a home, but it'll get rented. I mean, it just will.
Where do you think, we started talking about this earlier, right? Where do you think it's going to go with buildings, right? So I know everywhere they can, they're going to start slamming in, 3 to 4 story apartment buildings. That's just the trend that's going to keep on going. But single family is a 3-2, a 4-2. Is that still going to be a rental property in the next 10 years? With values and costs of everything going up? Or is it going to have to trend to something more unique, like these tiny homes? And
Well, I think so. You got the big Blackstone, Black Rocks, all those. They came in and bought pre-existing homes, cleaned them up, put some paint on them, and then rented them out. They're like, hey, we can manage these things. So now it's not just can we manage it, but now how can we sell, create, or build a product that the tenants want, not just what we have. And so now we're seeing a lot more build-to-rent communities. And so they're doing and I think you mentioned it earlier when we were talking beforehand, like they're building the 2-bedroom, 2-bath homes with 2-car garages in a suburb, which that didn't exist 3 years ago. So you're seeing a lot of that. And those are the ones that get rented the quickest. I don't know if it's single parents or what. I haven't really been able to dive deep into it.
I think it's a working base. The blue collar worker is that demographic. You don't need three bedrooms. You don't need 4 bedrooms. You just need 1 or 2 and a place for a car. As long as you're within an hour of some metroplex that you can get to, that's a good deal.
Yeah, and you're able to work from home a lot now, so there's that. So I don't know. It's not all evident where this is going, but we do know it's going somewhere. From the traditional is not going to be what it's going to be in the future. So you get a lot of multifamily generational homes now. That wasn't really a thing until the last few years. Sharing how we're seeing a big uptick in different people call it different things, but like shared housing, where somebody will go in and rent out
pad splits.
Pad split business model. Don't give me on that. I've got a story on them.
But we can get into it. I don't want to get the table if you want. I hate pad split.
I don't want to get sued. So, but renting out the bedrooms. Yep. That's a huge growth model that's going on right now.
I think it's. I'm trying not to.
I'm seeing an uptick of empty nesters, like the single parents that are going in and renting houses together, like 3 moms. The empty net kid. Yeah, you start get in some of these fake book groups, like in my neighborhood, it's called Keller Neighborly, like Facebook group, and you'll pretty regularly see, I'm an empty nest mom. I'd like to share a house with somebody. You'll see a lot of that. You see a lot of that.
So I know as a landlord's perspective, I know that was one of the conversations for today was like different ways to filter out bad tenants, right? If you have a 3 or 4-2, 3 or 4 bedroom, right? You potentially could get 2 families living in that one house, right? Then it could get a lot more wear and tear. People just start stacking beds, right? Like depending on the neighborhood. So these are all people that they self-manage, right? They have their own hirees and stuff. So they'll do, what were some of the things they'll do? They'll do max occupancies, right, of only 4 people or something like that. This way they're not capping it out. Everybody
How do
does
they enforce that?
no debt. Well, that's the whole thing. They don't enforce it. Their goal, even on the dog, they say no animals for anybody. They end up having animals all the time.
Yeah, that's not a thing that you can do, really. So,
right?
yeah.
You can only charge them an excess fee or whatever. But what that does is the people applying sees it and it'll filter them out. So it uses it as a way to like self-filter.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, no, you're absolutely right. How do you can't. But it just comes back to having the right SOPs in place.
But you can hold people accountable for where they live. So you want, in our business, we're going to have somebody in a rental house no less than 3, most often 5 times a year. So we're going to have an inspection. We're going to have somebody that goes in with a camera. They're going to take pictures from the curb to the chimney, inside, upside down, left, right, everything. Check the air filter. But they're also like, are these people taking care of my property? Are there holes in the walls? And the thing is, if you see holes in the walls, you want to fix it and then bill the tenant, because you don't want to accumulate problems and then when they move out, now you got a whole bunch that you have to use a little security deposit for. But then you also need to let them know this is the level, the standard that we require.
It's not right.
Right, so we don't let you make this property, you know, I don't know. Well,
you're living in our house.
There's a standard that we expect you to live to, because people will always stay at the lowest level that you deem acceptable. So you don't let them go. You hold them up the whole time, and then you force them. I mean, like there's things in the lease that say, hey, you have to take care of your stuff.
One of the things that was like one of the horror stories that I heard today was my good buddy Kevin. He has a renter, can't pay the rent anymore. She's been in there, I think, 6 months. All of a sudden, XYZ. She now has a GoFundMe for her rent. She's asking Kevin to share it out, like it's like Kevin's sitting there tracking it, and
She'll probably get it.
And it's just so so
odd,
fucking weird, right? Like it's a weird market. It's a weird time. At the same time, you have.
So one of the things to do is, as a landlord, you want to be aware of all the other opportunities out there to get rent money on behalf of your tenants. So I just got a phone call this week from a charitable organization that covers rent for a tenant when they're in transition from one job went away, now they find another job, so they'll do 2 months worth of rent or something of that nature. So there's a lot of charitable organizations. A lot of them are churches or affiliated with churches. There were some rent relief programs that were in the state that, like, we had 100% rent paid during this pandemic. Because we just knew where to go get the money. So I would encourage every landlord to start accumulating contact information for charitable organizations that pay rent for tenants.
I'm gonna have to look into those. Those are some good ones. Nobody even brought those up for today. It kind of like we were just discussing the absolute, like, the working class, right? How hard they're stressed.
And well, that and the mentality now is like somebody's going to bail me out, and they got that through the whole government dropping money into their bank accounts and saying you can't get evicted. Like we've conditioned these people. I say these people as if that's negative, but like that demographic to say, oh well, somebody's going to take care of us. I don't have to be held accountable, and so that's the GoFundMe mentality now. It's like, oh well, I can't pay my rent. Somebody else pay my rent for me, or I don't have to pay my rent. You have to get me out.
I think there has been a change, right? So I'm gonna pull over my quote book just so I don't mess this up. But like the working class knows that they're hurting. There's almost like a fake veil up, and the average person, I would say, that isn't the working class, isn't in that, right? If they're in a union, if they have some cushy job, right, that has given them pay increases, right? They're not hurting as much.
Right.
They're fucking blind, right? Because they're not actually they're not believing what's going on. And I'm not trying to get political or anything, but Don Lemon was literally walking around the streets of outside the DNC, and he was just interviewing people, and He went up to this one black voter and he was like, "Who are you going to vote for?" And he's like, "I'm going to vote for Donald Trump." And Don Lemon was like taken back, and he's like, "Why? You know, don't you know that the economy's better under Kamala?" And he's like, his quote was,
"What are you talking about?
You can't tell me what I'm living."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fucking perfect.
Well, that's the media. They're telling you what your reality is, as opposed to actually. It's. Do they call it gaslighting, or like just telling you the way things are? And after a while, you just believe it, and you're like, "No, this isn't better. Like, this isn't better at all."
The biggest thing that they've done, right, to gaslight or anything that you want to say, has been keeping oil low, right? So the gas pumps have always stayed low through the last 4 years. While everything has gone through the roof, somehow oil has stayed low.
Well, look at our strategic oil
Exactly.
reserve. It's like
they've slowly drained them to keep the prices low. Like, but that's me wearing my tinfoil hat, right? I'm just conspiracy.
We'll
theorist.
address that in December.
It's going to come out next year, and then it's going to be an issue then, and then by then it won't be an issue because something else will happen. My point being is that, right, if people notice the pumps going up, that's when people really get pissed. That's when times are correlated to bad times, when prices of the pumps go up.
Well, it's just an easy thing to, because you see it on every street corner, like, oh, that's an easy indicator, but it's a false indicator.
Yeah. That one, though, they've managed to keep low, and it's going to go up eventually. Where do, fuck, man, like, I'm trying not to get that market specific.
Hey,
we can go anywhere.
Go
right?
anywhere.
No,
I'm up
that's what
for
I'm
it.
saying. No, I don't know. Where does anybody have any comments or questions out there that they want to get us into?
Well, while we're waiting on that, you talked about how do you decide on a tenant. So one of the things that we found is it's a staggering percentage of the applications that you get have some level of fraud on them. It used to be, this used to be, this is my landlord, and it's really the guy they sit next to at work that's like going to answer as their landlord, and you can go on the tax rolls and kind of verify if that's legit or not. But what we've found and what we use software that actually goes into the bank account or goes into their W-2 from ADP payroll, paychecks, or Bank of America, Wells Fargo, whatever, and we can actually see, oh, this person, oh, yep, they pay their rent on the 3rd every single month, like clockwork. Or we can say, oh, this person pays their rent usually on the 14th of the month. Or this person goes to PetSmart every month and spends up $200. They have a pet. Or that sort of thing. So we can do that now with the software that we have available to us. I don't think mom and pops are really able to access that kind of software because I pay a lot for it. But it really scrutinizes out the person that's not paying their rent like they say they do.
Most of the data that they do collect, right? The pay stubs,
it's fake.
All of that can be faked.
Oh, it is. It's 100%. And you can go online and find those companies that is their business model, is creating fake pay stubs. There are people on Facebook that have businesses of just creating documents and giving you social security numbers to use on your application.
That's amazing. But
it's about $1,500.
And how do you combat that? So you're using this high dollar software. What is some other ways that the average mom and pop or somebody can kind of verify?
Other than hiring a good property manager?
Yeah, right.
Man, it really sucks to be a mom and pop because you're really having to trust. You do a lot of trust. Yeah. I mean, because I would not go without that kind of software now. And you can look up maybe Plaid. That's kind of one of the main platforms that you can go in and do that. There might be some small software companies that allow that, but you can't trust anything anymore. No. Like, you can't trust a video because there's all this sorts of AI stuff. So you have to go to a single source of truth, and it has actual bank accounts to get the truth.
You got to make sure, we tell everybody, you got to make sure at least you're doing the bare minimum, which is calling the references, calling the people that they put down. Well, a lot of times people just put down.
So here's the thing, scare them. And the people that don't have anything to hide are going to be okay with that. So tell them, yeah, we're going to go into your house twice a year to make sure this and this and this. And so we used to have problems. Like I took over a couple larger portfolios in Dallas a few years back, and it was horrible. Like they were cash pay, they were straw houses for drug dealers. It was wild. Like I got to watch SWAT teams take down places. We're filling in bullet holes. Like we've done it. The more uncomfortable you make it for that tenant, and this goes into on the scrutinization of the tenant before they even move in and while they're there, the more likely they're just going to move because they're going to go to the landlord that's not doing those things. And then because they don't want problems, they just want to be under the radar and get away with stuff. But if you're always not in their face, but always there,
When you're a good landlord.
they're going to be like, man, we can't do this because these people keep showing up or whatever. Like they just don't want problems because there's another landlord down the road that just thinks they're doing this wonderful job managing their property because they get the rent. That's it. They're the ones that really have the problems with the tenants.
Another thing, just to touch on that, was going into, right, like all these people that are, before they even get into the lease, right, I'm a big stickler on if they're trouble getting into the property, they're going to be fucking miserable getting out, right?
Yeah.
So if they're having trouble getting you paid, if all of a sudden, they got to shift around money, anything, right? They start giving you excuses, timelines start getting messed up, I just pull it, right? Like, sorry, not for you, like, it's okay, XYZ.
We're probably not a good match.
Exactly. D has a question out there. We keep on saying, you keep saying rental rates, all right, Jesus, you keep saying rentals right now is a good idea, or should you wait for the market to get better?
I got an answer.
Or is it just about cash flow?
So to me is real estate, too many people are watching YouTube and Facebook and all that thinking, oh, real estate, I'm going to make a ton of money this year. Yes, you can, but that's such a small niche of the market. Buying rentals is a long-term play. And it's kind of like if you want to own an orchard that you can just walk out and pluck oranges and lemons and plums off the tree every day you get hungry, you have to plant those things 10 years prior so that you get the fruits of that. And then you will never go hungry. But you have to go through the discipline and the delayed gratification to buy the rentals. And I guarantee you the first couple of years you're going to be like, oh man, this is kind of tough. Oh, I got an AC unit. Or, oh, my hot water heater, whatever. If you break even, I know that's not what you want to hear, but if you break even, you win. Because you got somebody paying down your mortgage, you've got depreciation on your taxes. So you're making money, you just don't see it in the bank account necessarily. Yep. But I guarantee you look up 5-10 years down the road and that appreciation's picked up, the rental rate's gone up, but your principal and interest payments stayed the same, you're winning.
So to also touch base on that, Nick D says, frankly, like you said, the market is flat right now and rental rates are getting forced down while taxes and insurance are going up. So to piggyback off what you're saying,
don't overpay.
Don't overpay, right? Don't force the deal. D, if your question is now a good time to get into real estate, absolutely.
Always.
It's always a good time. Like he said, 10 years ago, right, is the best time to plant a tree. You just have to find the right deal. Not every deal is a refinance and a rental, right? All these people out there nowadays are putting out these sub-2 deals, and this is, oh, it's going to cash flow. The PITI is well over market rent. And I'm like, this isn't a deal. How does this make sense? Oh, the only way this makes sense is if we pad split it. But this isn't like, don't do that type of shit, guys.
I'm kind of curious on where pad split is going to run into municipal problems with zoning, and people hate Airbnbs next door to them. Do you think they're going to want a pad split next door to them with like 8 people randomly that are making
monthly
minimum? Yeah, they're
stuff?
paying weekly from the minimum wage job, and that's a different animal.
with that being said, I used to say the same thing when I was a refinance lender, right? You have to refinance your business. Every deal is different. Some people are doctors with a shit ton of cash in the bank and they just need tax write-offs. They have no problem putting $30,000 into a rental property and then just cash flowing or breaking even because they need write-offs and stuff like that. So a lot of time they're going to do that
It's a great
same
place
thing
to store wealth.
until they're ready and they'll cash out. Is that person a fool for buying properties today? No, absolutely not. It's good for his business. So D, to go back on your question, the deal, if you want to have a rental, that's fine. Absolutely do it. Don't think that today is a bad time just because the world sucks. But you need to make sure that rental property, when you go and get it, is a good deal, right? It's gonna cash flow. You can stress test the shit out of it. We always talk about that on acquisitions. We have the deal analyzer. If nobody has a deal analyzer, click the link below and get it in the resources. But stress test your deals. This is what we always talk about. Make sure the rate what happens if it goes up, right? If it goes up by 3 points. It can happen, right, guys? It happened in the course of 23. Rates literally doubled in a matter of 6 months almost. So I don't want to hear it, guys. Stress test your deals. Make sure they're a good deal.
I bought 2 houses this last week, and the market's tough, but it worked out. But I know good and well those are financed at today's rates, but I bought them now, right? So that I'm pretty certain when the rates do go down, sometime they will, that the values will pop again, but I'll already locked in my acquisition price on that, and I'll just refinance at a lower rate, and they'll cash flow even more 3 years down the road.
The things that I want to highlight there are you got it financed. It's going to cash flow at today's rates, right? You don't care if rates go up tomorrow or anything like that because it's going to be locked in for the X amount of time. You're not trying to ride an appreciation wave, even though statistically speaking, the appreciation is gonna be there, right? Yeah. You just got to hold it longer. Even if it was, I talk to Andrew Postel all the times. And,
he's a smart dude. You'll need to.
He was on here.
Oh, yeah, he's good. Dude. Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Andrew Postel, we were talking about it. Those properties that he bought right before 2008, 2009, they crashed.
Yeah.
He saw horrible depreciation.
Yeah.
Guess what? He just had to hold them longer.
Yeah.
It was longer pains, and then those took maybe 10 years for him to pay off, but they eventually made out, right?
Yeah.
You just got to ride the long-term wave. So, what up, Raheem? Going back to what Nick says on the second time, stress test your deals. Peter, the sub 2 in Dallas with an ARV under PIT was, yeah, I don't know. But, what up, Raheem? I got ADD. I always get off topic.
That's good.
What so we were talking about, what were we talking about? We were talking about rental rates. We were talking about the market, whether or not we're going to go into
It's
smaller,
always good to buy.
smaller.
Marry the house, date the rate.
How long do you think rates are going to take until they come back down?
Well, Andrew was the guy to ask, but
I know. I did ask him that.
Someone in my circle is the CEO of a significant lender bank, and he's like, I don't think they're going to come down real soon. It's going to be a little bit, and I'm okay with that. But I mean, if the rates stay up, that's fine. My business model works in a high interest rate, and it works in a low interest rate. It works better in a high interest rate because I have less competition. Because there's too many people out here saying, "Oh, well, you can't buy right now. You can't buy right now. You can't buy." Like, that means that's less competition for guys like you and I.
I think there's going to be a huge pop for the deals coming. Pre-foreclosure is greatly on the rise. Starting to see a lot of deals. We're constantly running through them on the PPC side. So PPC is our direct to marketing channel and direct to seller marketing channel. I think we spent $5,000 in the last week just on realtors calling us. They'll fill out a lead form. That lead form costs us a couple $100, and it's just a realtor pre-listing their property. That we'll ask them all these questions about it. Send us I don't have photos yet. All right, well, send me the list. Oh, it's not up yet. Oh, well, what the fuck are you calling them? Why'd you waste our money? You lazy.
So I'm a real estate broker.
Oh my God!
And I cannot stand real estate agents.
Oh, I hate them.
There is I'm going to say 5%.
They're failed gym teachers.
5% of them are professionals and are amazing at what they do, and they earn every penny, if not more than what they make. But there's so many that are just, they don't have the cognitive thought process to really know. Some of my best deals I've bought off of real estate agents that didn't think they could list their house in the MLS. I was just shocked. And then I remember I bought a property off of a husband and wife team, and I asked them first, like, so what, after I got in contract, I'm like, why are y'all selling it? Like, oh, well, we're going to be retiring pretty soon. We want to get rid of our rentals before we retire. And I'm like, okay. I thought that's the other way around.
They want to cash out.
They didn't understand, like, that is like, yeah, first of all, yeah, they're paying it when you're your highest income tax bracket. But why would you give up an asset that's paying cash out to you when you're going to retire and you're going to have to reinvest that somehow? And the other thing I caught later on in our conversation with them is they were actually teachers at Keller Williams for new agents in a huge office that had 600 plus agents. They were the teachers on how to write contracts for all these new agents. So one of my best deals I ever bought, I bought off of the people that were teaching real estate agents that didn't even understand assets and liabilities and what they owned.
When I first got into real estate, one of my first, as a lender, right, I started cold calling, but I was cold calling agents to try to find deals to fund, right? The average realtor that if I had to call 20, I would only talk to one that knew anything about investing. Or like they would.
But they'll sell you a house. They'll sell you a house all day long.
They'll
I've
get
got so many
upset
stories
with me
on that. It's crazy.
Yeah. If anybody needs a realtor, reach out to BK Real Estate. Brittany Kosov, she's the best all through Texas. I think they have over 100 agents now. I don't know, I'm making stuff up, but reach out to her team. She's the best.
So,
she's the only one.
And I just met her last week, and just hearing what her office knows how to do, like nobody else does it. Like they have the whole, like if you're going in a restaurant, like they have the whole menu, as opposed to most, like a Keller Williams or whatever, Coldwell Banker, they're gonna like, here's your little menu, this is what we can do. Like they had so much more available.
Yeah, no, and the best thing is if I ever need anything from the group, people will reach out and they'll be like, oh, I need a flat fee listing. I have to reach back out to Josh, by the way. Anything, right? I can text her and I was like, hey, do any of your team members do XYZ? And she's like, oh yeah, absolutely. We have somebody that specializes in that. And I'm like, perfect. And then I can pair them up, right? It's just having that type of resource it's like having your own like Rolodex.
You have to have a team. You have to have a team of who you go to for your sub-twos, who you're going to go to your traditional financing, everything.
So we say the same thing. When you're first getting into real estate or anybody starting out, whether or not they're doing rentals, wholesaling, or anything, what's part of your mandatory team? What's that look like?
One area that I think's highly overlooked is insurance. We find so many people that have the wrong insurance on their property, so they're overpaying. So they got a whole homeowner's policy that they're paying for contents. Like you don't want to insure that crap.
That's also one of the things that'll blow up a sub-2 deal first, and people don't even realize that.
Yeah. So my office, we have a sister company that's an insurance broker, and I've got a rock star over there, Cameron, who he's almost always lowering and increasing the coverage on all the properties that come through our office just by looking at it. He's like, oh, we need to get this with XYZ, get a better coverage. Because there's certain carriers that know and love rental properties when your traditional insurance companies, that's not their thing. But everybody ends up using them and they pay out the nose for them. So I'm going to say insurance is big. If you're not going with a property management company, I would suggest there's a lot of benefits of going with a property manager, but then there's a lot of benefits of self-managing. You need to have who you're going to call when something happens. So this is going to be HVAC, water heater, backed up sewer, all these things that are going to happen. You need to plan that in advance, because what happens is everybody's reactionary and they're on Google looking for an HVAC repair guy on July 4th when everybody else is, and they don't already have their person lined up. And if you're the random guy calling in, he'll take care of you, but it's going to be in 2 weeks. Yeah. So you want to be on the front line. So you want to build that relationship in advance. So like, when you got 1,300, I'm at the front of the list. So you want to make sure that you do whatever you can to be on the front of the list of those vendors, and you want to have a really good handyman for just mom and poppy type stuff.
The plumbing is one of the things that always come up, and it's always at like 9 p.m. You get the phone call, and you're like, I don't know what you need to do, but
Do it somewhere else.
Yeah, right. But those are the ones that you always run into, and when you're first starting out, those are the stressful ones.
Yeah.
Those, because the average investor, they jump right to it too. At the same time, they'll show up at the apartment at 9 p.m. and like with a snake, like they're gonna do something. I'm like, it's gonna have to wait.
Well,
till
you
the
also
morning.
need to condition your tenants. You want your tenants to know this is a business. This is not, they can just call you and text you at all hours and just expect you to respond like that. You have to condition them, say, hey, is this an emergency or is this not? And if it's not, no, I'm not going to be over at your house on 10 a.m. on Saturday because I've got soccer with my kid or whatever. Like, so you have to build boundaries because tenants will push those boundaries as far as they can. So, absolutely.
Are there some items that are like, what's an emergency item, if you will?
Fire, flood, and blood.
Fire. What about HVAC?
We make it a high priority in our office, but the state of Texas doesn't say, oh, you have to have this AC working within 12 hours.
Yeah, it's
'Cause
only the heat.
it's physically impossible for us to like teleport an HVAC guy there when you want. If you're a homeowner or you're a tenant, it's not instant. So what we'll do is we've got in-house maintenance guys, and we'll run an HVAC, like a window unit or something like that over there to kind of
Make them happy.
make them happy as best we can until we get that part shipped in for the blower or whatever it is. But that's a high priority. Is an emergency. I mean,
Not really. If it's winter, then it's heat. It's different,
Right,
'cause
so-
you can't die from
the thing
open
is
up the goddamn windows, right? Like,
right. So we've had some houses that if it's 110 degrees outside and it's only getting to 80 inside, they're going to call that an emergency and they're going to blow up our phone over it. But I'm like, you realize it's 30 degrees less inside than outside? Your AC's working. You just don't acknowledge that it's working. So there's some of that
I had that same
applies in
argument with my brother Mike the other day because his unit went out on Saturday. He was gone all weekend. He got home. The unit was repaired on Monday, and his house, giant house in Keller, 2-story, had so much heat in it. It's 110 degrees outside.
Take a while.
And it literally was just at 80 degrees all day, and he was pissed. And I'm up there, I'm feeling air, I'm walking around, I'm just walking through a hot air pocket. I was like, bro, first off, your house sucks for ventilation. There's just air pockets
He probably
everywhere.
the same builder as
stuck.
me.
And then at the same time, your unit's probably undersized or somewhere, but it's doing what it's doing.
Those little laser thermometer guns are so valuable. They're $20, $30 at Home Depot, and you can shoot the
vent.
the register to tell if it's cooler or not. And that's really how you know if it's working or not. But yeah, that HVAC thing, that's always an issue.
It's the one thing that people get pissy about too.
Yeah. WFAA loves that on the news too. They're going to like crush every landlord, apartment complex because something goes down. I guarantee you, landlords are not bad people. They want to take care of their tenants. They want to provide a safe, secure home for their tenants. But there's still a real world they have to work within to make that happen.
And I'll highlight or just underscore, we're talking about single family rentals right now. Because when you get into the bigger shops, the apartments, stuff like that, it's so much more disconnected too. Everybody's just a number on a spreadsheet somewhere. So it comes down to the operator, how well that operator is. I don't know if you do anything with multifamily.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so that is one thing that you're starting to see it everywhere. Just bad operators starting to collapse. There's massive
Over-leveraged it. They had the bridge financing that they can't get out of, and
It's the same thing as on the single family side, except now a lot of them are using pools of other people's money. And I'm seeing some funny things out there. They're trying to readjust terms without letting anybody know, and just a lot of them. I'm happy I never stuck my foot in that water yet. So when we do, we'll make sure we're not doing a big pool or anything like that. But what's on your ticket moving forward? Where do you want to go?
Accumulate assets, because I do think the way the world's going, and I say the world, I mean our economy in the United States, I have a strong feeling that we're going to the European model, where it's going to be a lot harder to move up economically. So I mean, it's going to be easier for poor people, but more challenging for the middle class. And the upper class is just going to be there, and we're going to be looking at them like, I wish we were up there, but I wasn't born into it. So I think over the next 10 years, guys like you and me, we need to focus really hard on accumulating assets and setting ourselves up so that our next generation doesn't have the challenge of trying to move up in the world. And I say that in like, I think it's gonna be harder to buy your first time home. Mm-hmm. I think we already see that. So, I mean, I already know that I'm probably gonna be doing a 0% loan for my kids' down payment or something of that nature to help them get into a home. Because I've seen how owning a home earlier than later makes a huge impact on people's lives. And I mean, like, in so many ways that you don't even think of, like stability of where you live, stability in your friendships because of the people you're around, kids' neighborhoods, things like that. So wealth, like I would be rather my kids pay a mortgage down than to pay somebody else's rent. So where am I going? I think I'm decided in the last couple of years, I'm hunkering down, work a lot harder on my business, I'm going to pull a lot of people with me, and we're going to build wealth and income through real estate. And I'm also focusing a lot more heavy on the home service industries that you can't AI and you can't outsource to India or China or what have you. These are people in the United States that have to have a screwdriver, a paintbrush to get something done. So a lot of our focus and energy is growing out those pieces of the puzzle.
How are you finding your deals? So you said you bought two this week, right?
So I had a hard money lender cold call me this morning. He's like, where do you get your deals? I'm like, man, I am agnostic on where my houses come from. Like I'll have wholesalers bring them to me, but usually those don't work for me because I don't know if they're greedy or don't know what the hell they're doing or both.
A little of both.
But it just doesn't make sense. And then I get them on the MLS more often than you would think. I bought a burnout for $40,000 recently. Now I'm gutted it to nothing, and I've got permits and we're extending it and building onto the back and all that. So that was an MLS deal. I wouldn't have expected that. The one that I just closed on this morning, you saw the paperwork on that one. That one was a owner, and he wasn't an accidental owner, but he was an owner that really, he wasn't ready to own a rental property. So when something happens, he wasn't able to afford it. He's like, hey man, I got a tax bill coming up. I don't know what taxes it was, if it was income, whatever. But he had a tax bill that he needed $20,000, and I'm like, I'll give you $20,000 more than what you owe on the house, and he was ecstatic, and we closed on it. So it just anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I just need more people to know that I'm open to buying houses.
That's
everybody needs to know.
People don't understand. Like when I sat down with BK, and she's like, "You just got to put that energy out into the world, right? Whatever energy you're looking for, even if it comes down to buying houses, letting everybody know." Letting everybody know that you're in real estate, buying, selling, you're able to solve problems.
And you're going to feel like a poser or a faker at first, or fake it till you make it kind of person. Don't think of it that way. Just say, hey, you're projecting. This is what I do. I noticed a big difference in my business growth because early on it was a side business. It was nights and weekends. It was a hobby business. And it was like I was just trying to make $1. I didn't really talk about it to everybody because I didn't want everybody like. I was just working. I was nose to the grindstone, just making it happen. But one day I was like, man, I need more people to know what I'm doing. And then that's when I've got a podcast. It's How Real Estate Changed My Life. Go check it out. It's got some real people on there. It's got Andrew Postel. And video, YouTube, share on Facebook, be walking through houses that I buy or what I'm doing or how I do a move out, or what do I look for when I'm bidding on a house. Just educating, putting it out there. When I started doing that, more started coming because people put it on top of mind that Kyle does this.
Mm-hmm. I can't stress that enough to anybody starting out. Guys, start doing that. Just make it a habit. Anytime you're in Home Depot and you're looking at tile selections, just take a photo and what tile do you guys like, and then just try to get engagement. It goes so far, and it's part of that 30% free marketing that you need to be doing, right? 70%, 30%.
Yeah, get a house and do a mock-up of 3 different colors you painted it, and then put it out there for a survey, asking your friends, which one do you think I should go with? And then not only will more of your friends know you're doing it, but then that action will create the algorithm to like you more.
What blah, blah, blah. Sorry.
That's why I tape all my
I
my
know, man.
videos, so
Going live
I
is
edit
always
everything.
fun.
I'm like, so I may record for an hour. I'll cut it down to like 12 minutes because I'm doing this.
We'll do that later. But I
So
like.
where's the future going with you? What's your business doing?
We're just buying and selling. We're constantly doing that. Adding more marketing streams. We're constantly doing that. Trying to build out the team. Constantly doing that. But not. We scale at a slow rate. We're not somebody that just lets. We have plenty of people want to come in and just work phone calls, but I'm like.
You have some sharp people here.
Mm-hmm.
When I was here last week, I was impressed with some of the answers I was getting from some of the people on your team.
I appreciate that. But we put a lot of time, sweat, and energy into them, right? We'll sit on every room has a couch. Why? Because we'll sit on the couch, drink coffee while they're making phone calls, and not like harping down on them, cracking the whip type deal. Where, all right, great job with that. You could have asked XYZ. Or there's plenty of times where Tony will just get up and walk over and hop on the phone with the seller and quote, not take over, but like tag team and hold their hand to get it fully through. Not every deal is a cash offer, right? We close everything. That's our slogan, right?
Yeah.
Close everything. The way you do that is understanding every problem, understanding how to actually talk to sellers, and you only learn how to do that very slowly by doing a lot of it. Part of reiAF is making sure people understand that, right? So Dee works warm leads, right, that we're constantly giving her. She's part of the academy. And she went from talking to nobody, now she's talking directly to sellers, actually helping people, trying to understand problems and stuff like that. I think she just is setting one out with Mason to get locked up today. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I thought that I saw that in a text message. So
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Where it's going for me is like, I'm in a position where we've been doing social media for the past 4 or 5 years. It's taken us plenty of places. It's gotten our name out there. We always push out abundance. I know a lot of people talk about that shit, but we really push it out and mean it. If anybody ever needs help, they know where to find it. That's my goal, is to create a community where the average person can step into this, try to understand it. If it works for them, they can try it and be successful at it, right? They're not gonna get into it because some guy with fucking hair that looks like a hat told them, right, that this is how he made X amount of money, or Rolexes or fancy cars.
If they have something to sell you, it's kind of hard to listen to them because.
And there's so much of that out there, though, too. So I'm trying to, like, at the beginning of the year, Tommy and I sat down, like, how are we going to break through the noise? And it's just get louder, right? Like, how do we match other people? We're going to show everybody what we do. If anybody has questions, come out to our office. It's once a month. I'm trying to expand. So the monthly offices in January, I'm going to put them into a new place, but I haven't been able to find something that I like for the roundtable type talk.
The abundance mentality goes a long ways. And I think too many people are skeptical of that at first because they're coming from the scarcity mindset. Like, hey, if I'm getting, my slice of pie, there's less pie. And that's not the case at all. There's so much out there that me helping you, it doesn't hurt me at all. And then there's gonna be a day where you come back and
there's not one deal that's gonna retire you, right? Like no one deal is gonna be worth it to try to A, hoard all the profit, or B, try to hold back or gatekeep something. Like, you're just burning a bridge. There's been plenty of relationships. Tony and I have a very hardcore, we'll give you the knife to stab us in the back. If you stab us in the back, you're dead to us, right? It's only going to happen once. And there's plenty of people that have done that over $5,000 assignments or like some
Because they don't realize that 5,000, that's
the world to them.
That's 10% or 20% of what they'd make
People
all
are
year
so
round.
short-minded,
Yeah,
short-sighted.
So we're talking about acquisitions, where my deals come from. Last couple of years, a good number of my properties that I bought for my personal portfolio came from another gentleman that was sourcing his own deals, but he only wanted to have 2 or 3 at a time. Well, maybe I'm getting his 4th and 5th pick, but his 4th and 5th pick still fit my criteria, and I didn't have the marketing expense that he did or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, just tack on 5, 10K on it. I'll take it down, and I didn't have to do all the work to find it, but he did, and he still got rewarded. But he still got everything he needed. But then what that did is it allowed him to go do even more marketing and get more opportunities, which means his opportunities that he kept were even better, and the ones that he threw over to me were probably even better, and there's more of them. So for him to give me opportunities to buy what he couldn't take benefited both of us in ways that you wouldn't think initially. And I have no problem. He has a property management question. I help him with everything. Like, you don't have to be a client. And you know what? In my world, I'm in property management. I host a group of property managers every month. I helped that whole group start from scratch for the most part. Like, they had 0 rentals, and now they got legit life-sustaining businesses now. It didn't hurt me, but man, now their kids are, one of them, his son coming to work for him. So they have legit businesses that I helped them build up. Didn't hurt me at all, but it was a brain trust. We'd get together once a month at La Madeline, and we just help each other grow their business.
There's so much value to that. Nobody realizes that when they're first starting out, get a part of a group, right? Get a part of a mastermind. Mastermind has such a tainted phrase to it, but it's true. Go find a mastermind that you can go to lunch with a couple of people. You can sit down, you guys just pick each other's brains, right? That's why you're asking me about Michael. That's why we created the community, right? It's on Discord. Everybody's in there. We're over 100 members now. Everybody's constantly asking questions, and I'm throwing up lists like, oh, you need cold calling lists? Like, all right, here's some data, right? Like, what's your roadblock? What's stopping you? Because I want to hear the excuses. I love hearing the excuses because they're easy to swat down. People usually can swat them down in their own head, but they still build it up to be a resistance. And I'm like, just pick up the phone, right? Go door knock, right? Just put in some work, and you can be successful at anything.
You're the average of the 5 people you're around the most, and so you need to be. If right now you're working at Taco Bell, there's nothing wrong with that because you're making an honest dollar. But if you're hanging out with the guys at Taco Bell that have been there for 10 years, and you're smoking weed in the parking lot with them after work, in 10 years, you're going to be smoking the weed in the parking lot with them, and you're not going to get anywhere. Yeah. But if you show up, like your group, and you're around people that are motivated and high achievers, guess what? In 5 years, you're going to be in that room that people are going to be looking to as a high achiever because you made it a point to be around the people that you want to be like.
So every third Thursday in Farmers Branch, right here, that's going to be our open office mastermind event. Every month we change topics. It's open, it's free. Come on out, guys. If anybody wants to learn real estate, anybody wants to talk real estate, this is not a guru event, all right? This is, honest to God, it's networking. We sit around, we talk about a topic, and then guess what we do after that? We network again. That's all it is. There's no speeches, there's no pitches, nothing like that. It is the only event that I know of in DFW like that. So I'm very proud of it. Come on out. And then also September 3rd, Texas Tuesday, Hyenas in Fort Worth. That's going to be a good event too. So, and then actually I'm excited because we don't even have any marketing material about this. We just locked it in today. October, what day is Halloween?
31st?
31st. October 31st. I didn't know if it was 30th, 31st. October 31st, Halloween. BK Real Estate and reiAF. We're throwing the 2nd annual golf outing. I'm so excited for that. We just got it locked in today. Marketing and sign-up links are going to come out soon. So if anybody in DFW is in real estate, anybody has anything to do with anything, they want to come out, network, and golf, I'm definitely going to provide a link soon. I don't have one for you to click, but
And it won't be hot.
yeah. No, it's going to be a beautiful time, right? It is for, we were trying to do it on Veterans Day. The charity is a Wounded Warriors charity. So it's sponsoring everything. All proceeds go toward veterans. This is not, again, no sales. It's just networking. We're going to have some amazing raffles. I think we're going to have a couple firearms to raffle off. A bunch of stuff. It's going to be an amazing event. I'm hoping to have 144 golfers and really have a great time. So be on the lookout for that when I get ready, when I actually plug it all in. We just locked it up today, so I'm excited. Sorry. Does anybody have any more questions, comments you want to guys touch base on today?
There's a buyer's agent commission question.
So Nick D is talking about buyer's agent commission being negotiable.
That's a big topic lately.
It is, but I think it's just because
it's not changed. It's just the way people look at it has changed.
People don't understand it. Yeah. The NAR settlement, all that made was you can't advertise anymore. That
on the MLS.
Negotiable, it being negotiable, it has always been negotiable. All sales commissions are negotiable, okay? Guess what? Go work with somebody shittier if you don't want to pay 3%. It's that simple, right? You're paying for services. I'm not saying you need to pay 3%, but if you want your property to sell, don't do a flat rate listing or anything like that. Pay 3%, pay 4%. I promise you that property will sell. So.
If you got a $30,000 house and you're paying 3%, like you got to pay more. If you've got a multi-million-dollar house, you can negotiate. So that's the point. Is I think there's people had it in their head, and we're talking about real estate agents. They don't understand it. Like they have no idea. They still haven't got it through their head how this works.
They're also upset because now it's part of negotiations where they used to have to be able to just slide it underneath the table and it was part of their documents. Now it has to be brought up. It actually has to be discussed. Now the homeowner, home seller, buyer, whichever part of that is, they're now more educated. They're now more aware. So now they're asking questions. It is definitely going to filter out a lot of part-time realtors. It's going to hit them hard just because it's making their job harder. I don't feel bad. You guys suck anyway. Work harder. Be better. Join Brittany's team.
Well, they're saying the stats are that people will hold their houses longer, so they're not going to sell as often. And we'll see if that's true or not. But it's just think of it as seller's concessions. Like you negotiate that just like everything else. And are you asking for seller's concession or not? Well, it depends on how much you're offering.
Do you guys do a bunch on the retail side, or
we do a little bit? We got some projects that involve some good transactions, but it's not really out there much.
For the most part, we're trying to pull back everything we can from the retail side, just because anything that's past 90 days, we're trying not to fuck with. 6 months, definitely not, but it's just unknown and it's too crazy right now. Anything that you're putting out to the retail market, expect to be getting a haircut on the backside, whether or not from days on market or underselling. Now, I know there's going to be some ass client out there is like, oh, I just got a listing in 3 days signed. Like, yeah, those are still definitely market specific and they're absolutely doing it. But goes back to stress testing your deals, right? Put that into the numbers. If you're going to get into flipping right now, make sure you're putting 180 days as the days on market, right? And see what that does. If holding it for 180 days after you get to that rehab, if that's going to break it, well, then definitely start pulling back and offering less.
Yeah.
But, man, I really appreciate you coming out today.
Thanks for inviting me. So, I will always talk real estate. Like, it's such a passion for me that, I know people get bored of it when I'm around them. Like, that's all I talk about.
It's funny because I literally leave here, I go home, and I sit around my dinner table, and it's me, my mom, and my wife, and my kids. And then all we do is we talk real estate because both of them work at Kane Title. So I go home and then we just talk about real estate and deals and it's literally just part of life.
How valuable is that for your kids?
I don't know. We'll figure it out one day.
I'm seeing glimmers from my kids because they've absorbed things and they hear the conversations and they ask questions that I didn't ask when I was in fourth grade. fifth
So
grade.
my kids are still young. They'll come here, and so it's different. Oh man, you want to bring up that? I'm actually doing more of a disservice by being on camera. I'm convinced because they see Daddy as a YouTuber, and now they want to be a. I'm like, no, YouTube shit.
Yeah.
Don't do that. All right,
Yeah.
like get away from social
My
media.
daughter's YouTube channel has 10 times views more than mine because she does crochet. So she does crochet animals. People like that on YouTube more than they do real estate. But yeah, look, my kids were, look, my son, when he would go to kindergarten, it was like bring a game to school day, and he'd bring cash flow quadrant or those type of things in paychecks. And he would get home and he was all upset because nobody would play with him because that's the environment he knew.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I grew up playing Monopoly all the time.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
played that with my
that's
daughter
what-
the other day. Yeah, we
so,
love it.
Anytime I try to play a board game with kids nowadays, it's
So here's a touchy thing, and you tell me where I'm a bad parent. Do you let your kids win, or do you play to where they have to earn it?
my dad didn't let me win.
All right. So good.
Right.
We're on the same page.
No, I'm not going to let him win. I'm not going to knock him down a peg or two, but I'll play fair. I'm
Let
not
them
gonna-
get a pawn every once in a while.
Yeah. So it's always different, but no, they gotta beat me rightfully. They're gonna beat my ass when they're 20
Later
years
on.
old, right? So I gotta put in as much effort as I can now.
Right. So it kind of goes with what we were talking about earlier, where I think the economy is going is like, I want my kid's floor be where my ceiling is, and I think not enough parents think that way, and they're like, oh, I worked my ass off to get where I'm at. You're gonna have to too. Yeah, they're still gonna have to work their ass off, but let's start them a little farther up.
Yep.
Then they can work their ass off.
Yeah. I want to give them a nice foundation to then go step off to.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, how can people reach out to you?
Sure, well-
I have your company phone number, email, website
Sure.
in the comments.
So, obviously we're a property management company. So it's McCawPropertyManagement.com. That's MCCAW, propertymanagement.com. Got a few other little projects here and there, but that's the main thing. So you can reach us there. Our office is 817-491-2553. And we're all passionate about real estate. Like the guys in my office own rental houses. They understand it. They're passionate about it. Our job is to make wealth and income off of real estate for our clients.
One of the things I always love is when the service provider understands that their clients need to be successful. This way they are too.
So that's
right?
what
Like,
happened to me. I had rental properties. I lived out of state for a while, picked up some rentals, moved back to Texas, kept them. And what happened is I got raked over the coals by that property management company. It was unbelievable. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And so they were viewing me as the ATM as opposed to the tenant. So we look at the tenant as the ATM. That's where the money comes from, not from the owners. So that's important. And then I've got a podcast too, How Real Estate Changed My Life. There's no alternative motive. It's just I want to talk to other people about what did you do and how did it change your life. So I've got great guys that bought RV parks and made something happen, bought Airbnbs during COVID and had a blast, moved into whatever. I just want to hear everybody's story because everybody's is different. I want people to realize the path is not the same for everybody. And what was my path doesn't need to be yours. Do what you're passionate about, what you enjoy, and don't let somebody tell you you can't do something, because I've bought a lot of houses with no money down. I've things that people said you can't do, I've done. So don't let that happen. So my thing is I just want to interview people and talk to people about what has it done for you and how has it changed your life. So,
I love that, man. Where is that podcast?
it's wherever podcasts are. I've got a guy that puts it out there on Podbean and wherever. I've got it on YouTube too, but it's how real estate changed my life, because I think I owe it to people to let them know that there's another way out there.
Yeah.
And buying real estate makes a huge impact.
And you can do that so many different ways. I mean, I've talked to plenty of people, Brittany Kosev, right? Like you can do it passively while you're still working.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So a lot of people get scared thinking that we're lucky because we're doing this full time. That's the only way to be successful. No, you can very easily do this part time, build up your whatever you want to do, your business, whatever that looks like, quote unquote.
Hell, if it's buy one rental house every few years, you look up 10 years down the road and you're going to be like,
way ahead of the curve.
Way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Like unbelievable. Like it's a compounding snowball. So we have people that are professionals, doctors, executives, whatever. They'll fly into town, drop a couple $100K, buy a nice house, and fly out. And then we have people that are like doing everything they can to get that first one, rehabbing it, getting it taken care of, and then nursing it. So yeah.
Again, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely, thanks.
Greatly. Guys, if you're starting real estate, now is the perfect time to start. Yesterday would have been better, but obviously today is the best time. If you're needing help starting real estate, join the community. Click the link below. It's free. It's Discord. Everybody's there to help each other. If you don't believe me, come out next third Thursday of the month. I think it's September 18th. Don't quote me on that, whatever the third Thursday is. And come out to the office, see what we got working on. So come see the deals on their board. I don't give a shit. We don't hold anything back. It's full information, no gatekeeping. Come on out, keep crushing it. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was fun.
I appreciate it. So, it's difficult for me to